A Black executive perspective now presents Need to Know with the award-winning hyphenated Dr. Nsenga Burton. Dr. Burton, what do we need to know?
Good afternoon and welcome to Need to Know with Dr. Nsenga Burton. I am she, Nsenga Burton. Today we're going to talk about some of the things that you may look forward to or not so forward to with this next administration as it relates to policing and some of the criminal justice items that are at least listed in Project 2025, which they're saying is a wish list of right-wing and white nationalists. But if you're looking at some of the announcements that have been made, it seems like they're following that wish list, ticking it off in terms of what they want to do. And our next president, our president-elect, has already said that he is willing to use his executive orders to get these policies into place if he cannot get Congress to pass them. But he's about to have a Republican Senate and House, but we know that doesn't always mean that you get your legislation pushed through. And then, of course, he can also use his courts that he has nominated or appointed people to as well. But I wanted to talk about this because I learned of a situation involving two teenagers who were on their way to a homecoming event, a ball, a dress-up event, and they were stopped by the police. And I had the opportunity to hear some of the audio and how the police officer was talking to them. And apparently, of course, it ruined the night and they were really afraid for their lives. So I just want to remind people that police officers are not necessarily your friend. They're not there to be your friend. They're supposed to be there to serve and protect, but we do have a long, long history of negative interactions between police officers and people of African descent, Black people, brown people, or what have you. So I think you need to, what you need to know is that because people will be emboldened by this new president and the policies that he wants to put in place. For example, he wants to stop criminal justice reform. So what that means is when they were, some areas, carrying marijuana is a misdemeanor. Now he wants it to be a felony again. Some areas, they had reduced the sentencing guidelines. So, you would serve a shorter period of time for certain crimes. You can stay on marijuana. But now they want to stop that and increase the amount of time that you serve. They also want to make use of the RICO statutes in order to imprison larger numbers of people, take them off the streets, so to speak. Whether or not I won't say whether or not they're innocent or guilty, they have to go through a trial, but the RICO statute. So we have an example of that here in Atlanta, of the RICO statute being used against a record label. But they also, he wants to politicize the DOJ, the Department of Justice. I'm getting to my point in just a second. I just want to give you a little bit of this information. The Department of Justice. So instead of the Department of Justice mission, which is to serve in the interest of the public, he wants to change it so that it is their mission to serve in the interest of the president. Okay, so that means all of the things that are done, whether it's an investigation of civil rights crimes, whether it's anything that you are used to having the Department of Justice do, i.e. even investigate, Congress people or what have you for crimes. He wants that to go away, and he wants them to pledge allegiance to him and say, forget the public interest. You need to be working and be in alignment with the president. It's a corporate model, right? Where your whatever department you run should be aligned with the strategic plan, the strategic vision of the president's office, right? So he wants to do that, and as opposed to having the Department of Justice, which is supposed to represent the interests of the people. And then just one more thing, even though violent crime has dropped significantly in major cities, most of the information most of the wish list is coming from false information about statistics on violent crime. And so they're saying there's more violent crime, there's more violent crime, there's more violent crime. Well, in fact, it's less violent crime, and violent crime has been reduced in many, many municipalities, cities, or what have you. And so what you need to know is that information, this response, right? We need to have more death penalty. That's also part of this, right? We want to put more people to death, right? These are pro-life people, but they want to put more people to death. We want to build more prisons for when we do these mass deportations, so that we can put people in there until we can get rid of them, right? So we already had them putting kids in cages, losing track of the kids, finding out some of the kids were sex trafficked. That already happened 2016, 2020. But apparently we want more of that. So that's going to probably start happening now. So what I need you to know is, in order for people to work for this particular president, they are going to have to pledge allegiance to him. All right. And so all of those rights and protections that people have been working to put into place, particularly following George Floyd, particularly following Ahmaud Arbery, these very high profile cases, Breonna Taylor, will be either rescinded or repealed. And so what you need to know is your interactions with anybody who's representative of, the president in any way, shape, or form, particularly since he's calling himself the law and order president, right? Is probably going to be negative. There's a very high possibility that it'll be negative. There's a very high possibility that your civil rights will be violated because there'll be nowhere for you to go to get them. To even notify, yet alone try to remedy the situation through the courts. And even if you are able to get that done, the likelihood of you remedying the situation through the courts is slim to none. So my point is, you should be ready to be pulled over by the police. You should be ready to have a good attitude. I don't care if they're calling you the N word. Don't say nothing. Especially if you're teenagers, don't say nothing. You should be ready to ask for your lawyer immediately. One of my friends, she when her son turned 16 and started driving, she gave him a lawyer, introduced him to the lawyer, and he carried the lawyer's information with him, and he actually did need it once. So you need to know that you need to have a lawyer, hopefully on speed dial. Old people like me call it speed dial. You don't have to be fumbling around for stuff, where you just do this and they call the lawyer right away. And you need to be ready for some really intense interactions, because, civil rights are basically going away, and they will not be enforced, and your remedies will be curbed. So the likelihood of you being able to do anything for yourself is very slim once that happens. So I say all that to say, I'm sorry if you didn't read Project 2025. You might want to read it now because all these people who voted for him, particularly those who have long relationships with the incarceration and mass incarceration and all of the great things that were happening in order to repeal some of that those damaging policies, like these extremely long prison terms for nonviolent crimes, the amount at which you could be imprisoned, all of this positive legislation around marijuana and CBD and all of that is going away. So be clear that you may not have the most positive interactions with police officers or people from the DOJ or people who are aligned with the president in any way, shape, or form, because that's what he wants. And in order for them to work for him and to continue to work for him, they have to say that that's what they want to, and they have to do what he wants them to do in order to keep their jobs. So that's all I got. It's going to be a long 4 years, and then all the generational damage that will be done, so it's going to be longer than that, but these next 4 years could be 8, I guess. Since he said he didn't plan to leave the White House, so it's going to be a long 4 years. But please know what you need to know. Have a lawyer on speed dial. Follow all the rules of the road. So, if you do have an older car that has tinted windows, if you live in a county now or a state that doesn't allow them, get rid of the tinted windows. Not to blame the victim. I'm just saying, if you have a light out on your car, this is Sandra Bland, right? If you have just a bulb missing, oh, no big deal. It's just one bulb. I'll get it done tomorrow. Get it done today. Get it done today. But don't give them anything. Use your signal. Don't give them anything or any reason to stop you. They're going to anyway, for all intents and purposes, but you don't want to be able to have them say, well, I stopped you because you had this or you had that. You want to have everything in line, registration in place, all your taxes paid, property taxes. Don't have any outstanding traffic tickets, right? Because in some places, I'm sure they'll be saying once you have a certain number, they're going to turn it into a felony, right? Because they got to keep the prisons filled. All right. So make sure that you are handling your business. So tune in next week to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, and I will see you then. Thank you for tuning in to Need to Know with Dr. Nsenga Burton. Bye.
A Black Executive Perspective.